What's up, guys? Welcome to the Holy Shit Sweet 16 edition of the Red and White Podcast. How about that?
Did you say Sweet 16?
Yeah.
I still can't believe it.
Yeah. It's funny. I wanted it. I said Nova was the way, but I really didn't. I mean, I believed it, but at the same time, it's still something to beat the number one, no matter who it is.
Like I said earlier, you called it. I still can't believe it. Being down 16 to LSU, I never thought we were gonna even get out of that game at one point.
No, it was we were down, I think 14 at half, and at that time I was just cussing and pissed off, and I just wanted to turn it off, And like you said, I thought it was over, and then bam, just kept, cutting away at the lead, cutting away, and somehow I think they kind of grew up a little bit.
They must have. And I think Gottfried's mentioned it quite a few times, the benefits of playing in the ACC, where, we had a bunch of those games where, we're playing good teams and we're in it to the end. And then a couple of those games where we're behind, you're like, all right, got to step it up. And so they were kind of used to it, I guess. I don't know. Still, mind-blowing to me, to be honest.
It's just I'm used to somewhat of a comeback, but not necessarily coming back all the way,
Yeah. And
I think LSU might have been better than we thought they were. Their front court was impressive as hell.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was a combination of us just playing passive, but they were big and they were aggressive, and they were better than I thought they were going to be. I thought we would win 6-8 points pretty easily.
They took Kentucky to the wire, and I thought it was bullshit when it happened. But watching that, I'm like, well, I can kind of see it. I don't think it necessarily that we should have had to come back from 16 down or however many it was, but it wasn't a scrub team.
Yeah, and the weird thing about it is I think we would have won a little bit more, but we've just been in a cold shooting funk. I mean, like we talked about over text, if you tell me they're going 3 for 21 from 3-point range and we win, I would have taken that any day. Oh yeah,
luck. I mean, you can't win in March without luck somewhat on your side. I mean, if they hadn't missed those free throws down the stretch, what happens then? We're not even talking about Nova, So
yeah, I mean, and that's what it is. Like, we're used to seeing that because we're usually on that end of it. I just having flashbacks of the St. Louis game last year where they're just missing free throws. And LSU was trying to give us that game. And we were not trying to take it. We just couldn't score. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so, we've seen it before, but we're usually on the wrong side of it, which is really weird.
It never turns out the right way. Except now. So, anyway, enough about LSU. Who cares? That Villanova game.
I got nothing. I can't believe it. If you combine the two games, we're 6 for 40 from 3-point range, and we won them both. It's like, are you kidding me? Ralston Turner doesn't have a field goal, and we just own Villanova from start to the finish. I mean, the Pack outplayed him from the get-go.
It's funny, all year we've talked about the guards, and now all of a sudden we're like, oh, well, Anya's playing great. Kyle Washington's coming in. He gave some solid minutes. Leonard Freeman is a different player, completely different player the last not even a month. He's actually trying to get rebounds. He's scoring. It's his interior shot's it's like a different person.
So Leonard is perfect for his team because he doesn't go for his shot first. He's the scrappy guy that he's going to get the rebound, then get his points. So all of his points, he's earning the hard way. He's getting a rebound, then he's getting a basket, which is awesome. We don't need any more guys that want to shoot, which is, we've talked about before, but probably why Kyle Washington's not playing as much. But he was clutch. He was clutching a little bit. Was at the LSU game, so he stepped up.
But yeah, it's tough, especially being young and losing your minutes the way he did, but still to come in and be ready and perform the way he did. I mean, that says something about him. He cares. He still cares. It's not that. It's just his game. It's hit or miss.
Yeah, and I loved the post game video of Gottfried.
The chest bump.
The chest bumping Kyle Washington, that was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, Washington just mean mug, and about knocking Gottfried across the room. But yeah, it was nice. It was good to see that. There's been some worry. Well, what's Kyle thinking since he's not getting minutes? Well, I'm pretty sure he still likes the team. I don't think there's necessarily going to be a problem there in the off season.
It sure seems like it. At first I was like, man, guys' minutes get cut like that. He's usually the candidate to transfer, but he seems to just be in it. And when they call on him, he's been playing pretty well. So I think it's kind of maybe a maturity thing or something, but I am happy with it.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be his game developing. He's got to get better on the defensive side. I think that's the reason he's lost his minutes. He still goes up for when he comes in and he's hitting baskets. He goes for that 3-point shot, and I cringe, but somehow it still goes in.
I know we all did the same thing. I know everybody's don't shoot that. Oh, okay, it went in.
Yeah, so I remember precisely that game. Just and then it went in. So
Yeah, I don't know. Speaking of defense, that's Gottfried's been getting drilled for years that he doesn't play any defense, doesn't coach any defense. Well, the guys are starting to buy into it. They beat Villanova with defense. I mean, they shut down Villanova. Was a very good outside shooting team. I don't know what the numbers were, but they did not hit many threes, and the Pack just beasted them inside, and that's exactly what we wanted to do.
Evan, stop lying. We don't play defense. They just miss shots.
I know. That's right. I'm sorry.
You can't give our defense
there's no
credit.
way they don't practice any.
No,
defense,
they're garbage.
I'm sure.
So
yeah,
but yeah, like you said, they missed some open threes, but a lot of that's the mentality that they're waiting for a hand to be in their face, like they had the rest of the game. They don't just show that far off. I've watched 3-point teams. We play Duke a lot. If it's on, it's on. If it's off, it's off. And that wasn't that kind of thing. It was just they were getting hounded, and
yeah.
Once they had an open shot, they were still quick fire, And I think that led to the bad night. The inside layups, I don't know. I don't know the explanation for that.
I thought it was fantastic. It was a great game plan, and it was great execution. It was all around. It's just awesome. Abu had a great game. I mean, that guy was unstoppable. He was getting rebounds. I'm pretty sure he had double-double.
He was Villanova, right?
Yeah, Villanova.
Let's see, 13 points, 12 boards. Yeah.
Yeah, he was doing everything, and they just couldn't stop him. They didn't have a guy that was athletically strong enough to hang with him. And he's only a freshman. Just give that kid a couple of years.
Junior year, just
sky's the limit.
Well, I tell you what I liked about that game too. He's been close to a 50% free throw shooter on the year, and he hit 5 of 8. Which I wish it had been 6 or 7 of 8, but still, that's somewhat of an improvement.
I thought so too. I thought his stroke looked good. He was confident from the line.
He didn't play like a freshman.
Everything just worked.
Like there was no, you don't look at him and see, oh well, he's a freshman. Right. There were some defensive assignments, but other than that, no, I'll take that all day as long as he's. I mean, I actually thought watching it was really close to like a Richard Howell game. Right. Just that one, not the same type of player at all, but just I want to get this rebound and I want to put it in the basket type of thing that you knew you were going to get from Hal every time he came out.
Right.
So yeah, a hell of a game.
Yeah, the only missed assignment, and everybody saw it, was at the end of the game. They set a high screen, and Hilliard, I think it was, stepped back, and Abu stepped back like Hilliard was going to drive to the lane when you knew he was going to shoot a 3. And he just drained it, and Abu was just a little bit out of position there, and he was like, oh, man. And then they threw the turnover over, I forgot who threw it, but over Lacey's head. Or Lacey threw it over Desley's head.
I thought the game was over then. I thought that was going to be the beginning of the end.
Yeah. Every Wolfpack fan was cringing at that point, like, oh, Jesus, here we go.
Yeah, at that point, I wasn't even sitting. I was standing and went out of bounds, and I just turned around and walked down the hall and cursed to myself. Well, not really to myself. I actually was saying things quite loudly, but yeah. And then somehow there again, we expect these things to happen and just fold. But the whole game, they had an answer. When Nova would make a run, they had an answer.
Yeah, and that's the difference. I think we've seen this team over the season. is that they've responded a little bit better. You know, sometime early in the season they collapsed. Right now they got a little bit better, and now they didn't collapse when Nova hit a couple threes and got it close. They were calm, and they just score. Cat streaks down the court, makes a layup with a minute left. You're like, I mean, that's what they did. That's what they need to do. They did. We've talked about in the podcast where they played not to lose, right? And they played tight. They played that prevent offense that I hate so much. And then it comes back to bite them. This time they didn't do that. I mean, they killed a little bit of clock, but for the most part, they had an opportunity. They scored, and I think that was the difference maker, because Villanova started shooting at the end, but we just kept scoring. And it was too late at that point.
If there were 2 more minutes in the game, do we win?
Oh man,
don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think another minute and it would have been. I'm not going to say we were going to lose, but because we had answered, but they were cutting it.
Yeah, I think one of the best parts about winning that game is that now I'm purposely tuning into ESPN and ESPN radio just to hear him talk about us, and I freaking love it, right? Because we don't get that national exposure before, but now Seth Greenberg's talking about us. Mike Greenberg on Mike and Mike this morning said, outside of Kentucky, we have the best chance to win the national title in his mind. He might be drunk.
Yeah, nah.
Just at the fact that they're talking about us. Gottfried's on ESPN this morning, and I don't know. It just gets me all fired up, because that's what I want to. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear them talking about North Carolina. They're talking about NC State. They're talking about us. I love it.
You know who else hears that? Recruits.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
All right, so the Nova game's over, but apparently it wasn't supposed to be a game if you read Nova blogs, right?
Dude, that was awesome. If I've forgotten about it, for those who don't know, one of the Villanova bloggers said in one of his articles that NC State was just a speed bump for Villanova to get to the Final Four, that not to be concerned about us, blah blah blah, all that jazz. And then the aftermath on Twitter was hilarious. Everybody was like, "Hey, VU hoops, did you see this? Oh, we're just a speed bump." And Gottfried being a speed bump, it was awesome. It was so good.
I mean, what an asshole, man! But
I'm telling you, and I only know a few Villanova fans, and they're like that. I mean, it's the private, small, rich school in the Northeast. I mean, they're, like I said, like I tweeted out, they're the Duke fans in the Northeast that are not actually Duke fans. I mean, it's the people that you just grind your gears because they're holier than thou, right? I mean, some people say about Carolina fans, but I always equate Villanova fans to the Duke fans of the North.
It's just some of the things. Okay, and then he tried to defend it after and say, "Oh, well, I was just looking at numbers and laying it out." Some of the things he said weren't just strictly numbers. This isn't your father's Jimmy V team. Gottfried, I mean, he basically didn't even beat around the bush and said Gottfried can't coach at all.
Right.
And just classless as hell. And then you just come out and lay an egg, because the game was supposed to be over by halftime. Unless we had a miracle half, I believe was how it went. So I guess we didn't play that great, but they were garbage. But I guess that constitutes a miracle half, since we were still in it at halftime because it was supposed to be over. I almost didn't even watch it.
I mean, we beat him from start to finish, and I know that guy was pissed, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I would have just the blog would have said under construction after just disappear off the face of the earth. So
yeah, I mean that was great, and that's what you get. Like he's playing, and I know Villanova's a good team, they're a good shooting team, and blah blah blah, but they're playing in the Big East, and the Big East is taint right now. They're not good.
No, it's not your daddy's Big East. Like, this isn't our.
That's right. That's right.
Much different conference than it used to be. The best teams in it are in ours now. So, and it was nice to see Gottfried just kind of make that known in the presser too. I mean, he didn't shy away. Like, well, you talked about the ACC earlier. I mean, we play in the ACC. We see good teams all the time. So,
The ACC is 11-1 in this tournament, and if you would have bet me before a tournament, Virginia would have been the first team out, I would have never have taken it. I'm like, no, they're not gonna be the first one out. No chance.
Let me tell y'all a funny story. I was filling out my bracket and wanted to pick Michigan State over Virginia, and Evan talked me out of it.
Virginia has cursed me, man. I talked myself out of it too. I had them picked, and I just backpedaled. I was like, no, they're better than that. But they've just stunk for the last, couple weeks. They just have not played well. They peaked too early, and they just hadn't gotten it done. And Tom Izzo's a NCAA tournament wizard. It's my only explanation for that.
Yeah, I saw how many Sweet 16s is that in
7 out of 16, I think, something like that.
That's ridiculous. Of course, that's not as good a percentage as Mark Gottfried has at NC State, but
that's right. Nobody's got it yet. Yeah.
So speaking of Gottfried, that's 4 years, 2 Sweet 16s, and a tournament 2 other years. So are we still firing him or nah?
Well, since we're calling people out, I'm gonna go read back to one of my text messages you sent me during the LSU game, and Dustin says, if we lose this game, are we gonna fire Mark Gottfried?
Yeah, I could just imagine the uproar that was gonna come out.
Yeah, no chance. Like I know where you're going with that. Like people would have been pissed, and it hurts in the moment. But there's no way you fire a guy for losing in the tournament. It just doesn't happen. Not for us, at least. We're not there yet. But I think other people's perception of Gottfried is coming around a little bit. There's been a lot of, well, he's not Archie. I mean, I'm just gonna put like Archie Miller's out there winning, and everybody's like, well, kind of excuse to get, well, he's not doing that great. He's, I don't know, whatever it is. I think the perception is starting to change because we have a very real shot of going to the Elite Eight, and people are going to see that. I mean, I think you can't argue with the numbers. 4 years, 2 Sweet 16s with a insanely young team.
Herb went to 1 Sweet 16 in 10 years.
Yeah, so you look at those numbers, and I think it was the 20 years before Gottfried we went to 1 or 2 Sweet 16s. Gottfried's been to 2 in 4 years.
God, he's terrible.
I think he's okay. I think he's doing fine.
I wish we could have success. I don't know what it is. Question: if pre-Gottfried hire, after Lowe was kicked out, would you have taken 2 Sweet 16s out of 4 years? Like, if they said, we're going to give you a coach that'll get you 2 Sweet 16s in 4 years, would that be acceptable to you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, Gottfried hasn't done anything wrong. He's lost a couple games here and there, but nothing to the point where anybody has any real criticism of him. If you look at any of the numbers across the board, he's outperforming the last 25 years of state basketball.
There's nothing we're not going to complain about Gottfried. If you are, then just quit. It's old now. Funny, on that same thing though, I texted you last night, and this is going to be to the chagrin of a lot of State fans, but I was happy that Dayton lost.
Yeah, oh man. When Dayton was up, I don't know, 6 or 8 points about 4 minutes ago, and the only thing that's going through my mind is, we're going to end up playing Dayton. We're going to end up playing Dayton. We're going to end up playing Dayton. Like, you can just know how that's how the Wolfpack world works. Is, we're going to be all excited in the Elite Eight, and now we got to play Archie Miller, who's, former state guard. Everybody loves him. He's the heir to the throne, if you ask most people. I mean, I could just see that happening. But, I mean, in the end, Dayton played 6 guys, and they were just gassed. And Oklahoma ended up winning that game. So, disaster avoided. But, man, we were very close to that was going to happen.
And long term, too. And this isn't hypocritical bashing Gottfried at all, but who knows what could happen in a couple years. He could decide he just wants to leave and go somewhere else. So Dayton not making a deep run may help keep Archie off the radar somewhat, whereas if they had, they're in the Elite Eight or something like that, and he had those 2 years in a row, he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody who knows about or anybody who's into coaching knows about Arch, so I'm not sure if there's any we can hide him in Dayton. But I think wherever he goes, we're still going to be the most attractive option to him. There's, he's an alumni. He loves the area. It's all those factors are going for us. And it's the same thing that Roy Williams did at Kansas. And you brought that up. He's going to be our Roy. He's going to, even if we come at the wrong time, we'll come back 2 years later, and then he'll want to come back. It's just, I think if it comes down to it, if Gottfried goes to UCLA, which is the only place I think he'd go, I think we can get Arch no matter where he is.
I agree, and he can be our Roy, that's fine, but if he ever utters the word, I don't give a shit, or the words, I don't give a shit about State, he's dead to me. So
Absolutely. I'm on board there.
Anything interesting on the rest of the bracket you see?
Well, the only thing relevant that I was just thinking about is in episode 6 we were talking about, or maybe it was 5, when we had talked about Gottfried going to UCLA or whatever. And I still think Steve Altford is terrible. And it's been widely known that most people think they shouldn't have been in this tournament, but they're in the Sweet 16 now. So maybe Altford's keeping his job for a little bit longer than I expected him to.
Man, okay, so they won the first game that they shouldn't have won. But then they get UAB second round.
Yeah, so
that's not okay. They had their good game, but beating them doesn't mean that everything's passed and you're worthy of a Sweet 16.
I still think he's bad.
Yeah, so do I.
They're gonna. I mean, if anybody's interested in making sure we keep Gottfried, pay attention to UCLA, because I think that's going to be the only attractive option for him ever at any point.
How's your bracket doing?
Oh, my bracket is god awful. Iowa State lost in like the third game, and I had them in the Final Four. And I'm sure everybody else's brackets are all jacked up now, but I had Arizona and Villanova in the finals, and the only reason I picked Villanova is so I could justify it. If we lost that game, I could still be like, all right, I still got Villanova in my bracket, so there's a chance. But now that we beat them, so we won. Busted my bracket. I don't care. We're in the Sweet 16. So it kind of evens out for me. That's probably a typical State fan thing to do as well.
Yeah, you got to cover your bases.
That's right.
So you can look smart later on.
Right. I think Duke's got a cakewalk to the Final Four at this point. I still have them in my bracket. I'm losing to Utah, but Utah has not looked pretty good. So I think Duke's got that.
Yeah, I'm down the one Final Four team in Virginia, but overall my bracket's not too bad as of yet.
Yeah, I still think you're leading our pool of, 100 people or whatever it is.
Yeah, but I looked in I think the guy in second or third has like 5 or 6 more points available at the end of me. So doom is coming, I'm sure.
Who do you have winning?
Arizona.
Okay, so I'm sure most people have Kentucky.
Yeah.
So you're pulling hard for the Miller family.
Absolutely. But yeah, my bracket could be worse, so I can't complain too much. Anyway, we got, I think, one call to play and talk about, don't we?
Well, we got lots of calls. Hold on, let's not skew the people.
Well, one that we chose.
Hundreds of calls we had to sift through when we came down with this one call.
Yeah, just for time constraints,
Yeah, I mean, people, can't be, like a 3-hour long podcast if we played all the calls. So we don't want that.
We have lives.
Yeah, that's right, people. Anyway, so we got the one call that we're going to play for you out of hundreds. And it's, he's got a good point. He's got a point. Let y'all listen to it, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Doesn't really matter, it seems like, any sport. Always like the commentators just pull against us so hard, almost to the point to where we make a play, they almost seem disappointed. The coverage of this game really sucked.
All right, so what Robbie is talking about, he's talking about the LSU game. And it's not the only game, but it's just the most recent, where it always sounds like they're pulling against us. And again, I think that's the State fan mentality. I don't think there's a giant conspiracy among commentators out there, but they just don't expect us to win because historically we haven't been that great in the last 30 years. So, I mean, it sure sounds like, and I understand his frustration when you got, especially during the LSU game, they're like, they're just the comments they're making, and I need to go back and listen to it, but it does sound like they're pulling for the other team, or they're just maybe a little more shocked that we're actually playing well or something. I don't know what it is, but he's not the only one that feels that. I know a lot of other State fans are like, come on now, give us a fair shake. But I don't think that's the case. So there's no conspiracy there. I think they're just hating on us to hate on us.
I think most of it is we just expect to be dogged all the time because we are wherever we are in state here.
Right.
I don't think there again. I've said the same thing at times, like, well, damn, could he pull for them any harder?
Right.
And it happens sometimes, but I think that's just natural bias that everyone has. I don't think it's like Illuminati coming down on state or anything. So,
I think we're more sensitive to it. Especially even in league games when you have guys like Mike Jaminski, who's a Duke grad, right, calling the game, or just other grads from other schools that we're more aware of it because state fans as a whole are bitter about just being forgotten about for so long. So I think that's part of it as well.
I will say that Jaminski gets a pass on anything he does because of his sweet earring. But I like him on TV. I think he does a good job. I mean, he went to school there. He's going to talk about it. There's no way you can get around that. I think overall he's not terrible.
No, he's fine. He's just the one that popped up in my head because he's the one I remember. I know that like LaFonso Ellis and all those other guys, they might be leaning towards their school a little bit. And I think we're just more sensitive to it than most.
Yeah. We're paranoid. So, we're the people that wear the tinfoil hats and stuff like that. I'm not going to totally disagree because I've thought it at times, but I don't, like you said, I don't think there's some master plan.
And I'm one. Hey, I love a good conspiracy, man. I believe in UFOs and all that other crap. So I feel you, but and it sure seems like, especially when we get into officiating, but it sure seems like they're all calling against us. But if you think about it, there's no way that the ACC is smart enough to orchestrate any sort of conspiracy without it leaking out of some sort, right? I mean, so being realistic about it, it sure seems like everybody's against us, but I think that's just our mentality. I don't think there's a conspiracy at all, but there are UFOs.
Well, nobody's debating either.
So the government is hiding it from us.
Oh, yeah. All right, so now that we've had a little break there from the tournament, let's go back to the tournament. Louisville. What happens?
Oh. Man, so, I was putting out that message last night. Who would you rather face, Northern Iowa or Louisville? And I genuinely couldn't decide who I wanted to go against or who I wanted to see in the Sweet 16. I mean, Northern Iowa, I don't think they match up well with obviously anybody of the ACC, just because I think the skill level and athletic level is different. But that type of team that shoots well, it plays well together, I mean, they give nightmares to people. I couldn't decide who I wanted, but so watching that game, and I was really like, man, I was kind of pulling for Northern Iowa just because I think we could have had the same success we found against Villanova against them, just beat them inside. But Louisville, and I know about playing Patino twice, but Louisville just struggles to score, man. I mean, Rozier was hot last night, but the rest of the team was just, I don't know who's going to put it in the basket for him.
What if last night was we're back, we're hot, we're shooting the ball well?
They didn't shoot the ball well, though. Only Rozier did. So, we guard him, and Snyder had a decent game, but he's not going to carry you. I mean, without Chris Jones, I don't know. I'm just kind of skeptical about it. I just don't think they're that good, and maybe that's the kiss of death, the overconfidence in a State fan. But just watching that game last night, I just wasn't really impressed offensively. Now, we haven't shot the ball worth a damn at all in the first two games, so that's got to change. So we need to be able to score, but I think we have a better chance and we have better talent of being able to score than Louisville does. That could just be me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to change my tune. I had us playing Louisville in this game, and I have us winning. And that was before we started playing better. I think not better, but before the front court really showed up that last game. I'm trying to convince myself that was a turnaround game for them. The worry I have is I'm big on I don't really want to play Rick Pitino twice after we beat him the last time.
Right, and nobody wants to. It's like you don't want to play Tom Izzo in the NCAA tournament just because, they're Hall of Fame coaches for a reason. So I get that. I hate feeling, as a State fan, man, I really hate being confident or feeling good about something because it just sets us up for failure.
Oh, you're going to be in such pain Friday then.
I know. I mean, I can feel it coming. But I like our matchup with Louisville. We've beat them once. And so we got that going for us, and I hope the guys aren't like overconfident about it. Like, oh yeah, we already we went their place and beat them, so let's we got nothing to worry about.
I can't imagine that being the case, especially after the Duke fallout in the ACC tournament.
It's true. So somebody asked me on Twitter, when was the last time we beat a team twice in the same year? And I was like, I'm a terrible historian, so I went back and looked it up. This year we beat Pitt early in the year, and then we beat them in the tournament, and then it wasn't in 2013, so not last year but the year before that we had beaten BC. So it doesn't happen very often, especially in our league, so that's kind of going against us. It's kind of a reality check, to be honest, but I still think if we get more than 2 points and 0 field goals out of Ralston Turner, and then Cat and Lacey are just averaging out what they had been, I feel good about it.
I'm going to sidetrack a little bit, and I'm going to give all of you a stone cold lock of the week for next season. A team that will beat twice, Carolina. That is the
You heard it here, folks.
That's it.
You heard it here first.
Write it down. But yeah, I'm confident too. What do you think about the Pitino factor? Scares me, and shutting down Harold twice scares me. Do you think that we control him like we did last game? He scored 7 points that last game.
I don't think so. I think he's going to get his. I think he's going to be somewhere around 15 and 7. That's probably what I would see from him. But I don't think that's a difference maker. Though, just the way our bigs are playing, I think we have a good opportunity to maybe neutralize them. Maybe not shut them down, but just kind of cancel them out. And I think that's good enough.
If the bigs could maintain and the guards could play as good as they can play, who can beat us? I'm not predicting a championship. I'm saying for this game, like if we can keep that steady front court that we've had, recently, right, and we'll say 2 of the 3 guards show up, like Louisville can't beat us.
It sure doesn't feel like it, man. It really doesn't. I don't know. It's a weird feeling to have any kind of confidence, but I feel pretty good about it. I think we at least match up well with them, and we know we can beat them because we already have beaten them. So just a matter if they, what team shows up. If they come out like the team that played against Villanova, it'd be hard to beat, I think.
Yeah. All right, so to end it, it's a win, right?
God, my thing, picking State. I feel like I'm the kiss of death if I pick them, but yeah, I feel like we should win.
All right. So you heard? What about Michigan State after that?
Oh man, Michigan State, Oklahoma. If we had to play Michigan State, that would just be. I don't know. I don't like. They didn't have a very good year, but it's tournament time. Here comes Michigan State.
Yeah, and I think they closed out the year really strong though, didn't they?
Right.
I think it was a good kind of like the run we made at the end of the year. I think they did something similar. But that's there again. Izzo, it's not surprising. I don't want to talk about that yet. Let's worry about Louisville. So, do you got anything else?
Yeah. So I think our only, it's been our downfall all year. It's been consistency, right? You go AC tournament, we beat Pitt and then just lay an egg against Duke, and then we've seen it all year. You beat Duke and then you lose the next game to Carolina, and that's gonna if we've gotten past that, right? If the guys have gotten over that being inconsistent crap, then I think we have a good shot. I mean, we're as good as anybody that's playing in the tournament. So,
yeah, I think that's the key is that's the last page to turn is bringing your A game every game, and if they do that, then sky's the limit, and so is Gottfried's contract. Sorry, guys.
I stumbled upon a couple of good links that I thought I'd share. One is the updated odds for the NCAA tournament. And state originally started out was like, there's a quote from the Superbook, and they said they took a $300 bet at 2,000 to 1 for the Wolfpack to win the NCAA back in early February after they lost to Wake Forest, which is unbelievable. 2,000 to 1. They're now 60 to 1, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they're 10th right now in probability to win the NCAA.
I know I saw, because I thought it was funny. I can't remember where I saw it somewhere on Twitter, that our odds to get to the Final Four are better than Carolina's odds.
Yeah.
But odds to win the title, Carolina has better than us.
Our odds to make it to the Sweet 16 were 9%, and now that we're in the Sweet 16, our odds to make it to the Final Four are 12%. So
hey, climbing.
Yeah. So strange, but
I think a lot of that though is if you knock out that number one seed, then you have their roadmap that's laid out for them,
right,
to have the easier way through the bracket.
Right.
So basically, we're the number one seed now.
Yeah, and then the other thing I have was the ACC is going to net $28 million off of this year's NCAA tournament because the guys are doing so well. 11-1 for the ACC in the tournament. It's getting to rack up some money, so that's pretty awesome.
That's is that going for even distribution?
I think it goes to the conference and then it kind of splits out, but I'm not sure. Oh yeah, it says right here. ACC splits its units equally among conference members.
And Georgia Tech shouldn't get crap.
Yeah, Georgia Tech, you're welcome for whatever money you're about to get from us.
Hey, that could possibly take care of. Who was the guy? The coach that they're still paying.
Paul Hewitt?
Yeah, that could take care of his contract that they're still having to pay. So.
He just got fired from wherever he went. He got fired again.
Yeah, he's collecting 2 paychecks.
Yeah.
And he's not working. Like, he's living the dream. I've got to get on this. Like, hire me, fire me, please.
You got to get on that Paul Hewitt plan.
Yeah, this is he should write a book.
Yeah. But that's all I got.
Well, we'll talk to you next time when we're doing the Final Four version of the podcast.
What about we got to do the Elite 8 version. Maybe we'll slip one in there.
Yeah. Short little summary. It'd be Saturday. So
yeah,
we win Friday and we will have something out Saturday. Promise. So
absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, that's all I got. You out, Evan?
Yep. Thanks for listening. Go Pack.
Go Pack.